do a little testing with the Kahr PM9, see how it feeds, see how it fires this different ammunition. I haven't shot it in a while. Seemed like a good excuse to do a little testing. Now, first thing let's do is take out the carry stuff. Put that in our pocket. Now, the thing about a Kahr, especially these little guys, the PM9, it does not like to be racked. It likes you to put the slide in, or put the magazine in on a slide lock, and then use the slide lock release. Slide did not lock. We are empty. Alright, slide didn't lock back on that last. Well, today we have laying on the workbench Kahr PM9. It occurred to me that I hadn't really done much of any kind of discussion about the Kahr PM9 or any kind of a review on the Kahr PM9, and I thought I should do that. So I'm going to maybe piece together some segments. I've had the Kahr for almost a year, not quite, but almost a year. Probably the first thing you will notice about a Kahr PM9, and you'll notice it whether you've seen one in person or not. You'll notice it in pictures, you'll notice it in videos, and you probably can already get a good sense of it in this video right now, is that it is a very small gun. It is a 9mm semi-automatic, striker fired polymer frame. It is pretty light. It weighs, it feels like almost nothing, and it is, again, very, very small. So, I can just about hide this entire gun. In fact, if I turn it around this way, I probably can hide the entire gun under my hand. And I do not have giant hands. I cannot palm a basket. I can barely palm a baseball. Okay, so that's what kind of hands I have. It's a very, very small gun, which makes it very attractive as a personal self-defense weapon, because it conceals very well, and you're able to carry it in a variety of ways and with a variety of different types of wardrobe. So it makes it great. Now, the other things that, in my opinion, make it great is that it's a Kahr. Kahr is a very reputable manufacturer of firearms. Their guns are very reliable. They are very well made, very well engineered and designed. The PM9 is no different. That was certainly a big factor for me in my purchase choice for the PM9. Let's see, what else? I mean, reliability, quality, tight tolerances. You know, the smaller you get in a gun, the more that comes into play. You know, you want to say, I don't want to say anybody can make a 1911, but anybody can make a 1911. I mean, and pretty much everybody does make a 1911. When you start to shrink the size of a semi-automatic handgun, then you know you start to have to deal with a lot of issues. You know, like pressures and just the mechanics. There are certain things that have to happen. You know, the slide has to be able to travel a certain distance, minimum, just because of the length of the ammunition that is going to fire, that it's chambered for. So the slide has to travel a certain distance. It has to do so with a certain amount of pressure. It has to do so with a certain amount of speed. Just chambering for certain rounds and making them smaller and smaller. I mean, these, the ammunition itself takes up a certain amount of space, and to chamber it and fire it and feed it and all the things that are required and have enough metal around it to absorb the pressures properly, all become very important things to consider when you're designing a gun and making it very, very small. But I say all of that to basically just tip my hat to the folks that are able to pull this off, because it wasn't that many years ago that a 9mm, and we're talking capable of firing plus P, very hot self-defense load 9mm, in this size package was just not even conceivable. So what exactly is the size of the Kahr PM9? Let's do some tests, or not tests, but let's just take a look. Let me lay the gun this way, and if I go from the furthest point at the back, we're looking at 5 3/8. So we got about a 5 3/8 overall length, and from the very bottom to the very top, and I'll even go all the way to the top of the sights, because that is part of it, is almost exactly 4 inches. So it's very small, and the width, I can actually check the width better with a caliper, so let's do that. Look at near the front of the slide here. .901, .900, so there we go, .900, .899 if I put a little pressure on the wheel. So talking about 0.9 inches, and then down here, do we get any thicker? Now we get thinner, actually. We're looking at like 9.5, 9.963, 0.960, and I've got a Talon rubberized grip on here, which doesn't add much, but it's going to add, it probably adds 50 thousandths. So you'd almost be at 0.9 even without that Talon grip. Or just a little over 0.9 even. So that gives you an idea just how small this is. So those are numbers. In terms of practical size, how big is it? I want to do just a couple comparisons. A lot of people are familiar with the Springfield XDS. This is very well known, very popular, and very heavily advertised gun. You see this in magazines, the actual size ads all the time. So to give you an idea, there's overall length. Let's do this. And in terms of height, I'd say The Kahr is less than half inch shorter in terms of the height. And this gives you, this also gives you a nice look at the overall length. And then thickness. And Springfield is also just about an inch, and maybe just under an inch. So they are very, very similar in thickness. So let's compare it to like a Glock 17. So here's a Glock 17. This is considered a full-size semi-automatic gun, and you can just get a good sense here of how small the Kahr PM9 is compared to a Glock 17, and that gives you a really good idea, doesn't it? Look at that. Just look at the difference in the thickness. Now obviously we can't hold a candle if we wanted to compare capacity, because the Kahr PM9 is a small single stack and the Glock 17 is a double stack, so we can't even think about comparing that. But just to give you an idea how much smaller that is, look at that. You know, just sort of your quintessential full-sized 9mm handgun, the Glock 17. Most people are familiar with that one, so I think it's a good one to compare it to. Right. Okay, so there's size. The weight, I do not know off the top of my head. I will post that information, either embedded into this video, perhaps right down here someplace, or I will put it in the information. So that takes us to things that are less technical. Now we're getting more subjective in how does it feel, the overall feel of the gun, because that's an important thing to me, and it probably is to most of you as well. The feel for me of Kahr PM9 is really good. It's very comfortable. Not everybody's going to like this. It's a very short butt, but that's important for concealment. So if you're going to carry a gun, there's two things that really are important. A lot of people will think that the length here makes a difference, and it really doesn't that much. There's two things. Number one is, what is this dimension from here to here, right? Because this is the part that's going to stick out and print, you know, the butt of the gun. And then what's the thickness? Because if you're especially wearing inside the waistband, or even in a pocket or wherever, the thickness has a lot to do with how comfortable you can carry that, what you can get away with in terms of wardrobe and things of that nature. Why did I go into that? Oh, I was talking about this. So a lot of people may not like this, or they may not feel comfortable with that. Doesn't really bother me. I don't mind. I'm able to get all the grip I need right there. So this is becomes a superfluous finger. So that doesn't bother me. However, there is an extended grip magazine available. I just happen to have one right here, and this is a 7-round magazine, which also extends obviously your capacity to 7 + 1, so you have a total of 8 instead of the 5 + 1, or a total of 6. So you get 2 more rounds, and you have a home for the pinky. So if that's important to you, now when I purchased mine, it came with a 7-round extended magazine, and it came with a 5-round flush magazine. Those are the 2 magazines it came with. I purchased a second 7-round magazine. You can see it looks a little different, not to get too sidetracked, but it also does not have the Kahr name stamped on it anywhere, and I was just looking for the packaging to see if, because I'm weird and sometimes I save packaging, to see, because I thought for sure at the time I bought it that it was actually Kahr. Now the follower looks like it's exactly the same. And the metal has a very similar finish. You know, it's a galvanized look, but nowhere on this one is it stamped Kahr, not even down at on the foot, and you can see it has a different design. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's OEM or if that's an aftermarket. But this one definitely is, and has Kahr stamped on it right there. So anyway, there is a 7-round extended available for it. So for me, the feel is extremely good. In this small of a pistol, I don't think you can ask for a little much better ergonomics. And another thing that's very important is you have a really nice grip in terms of the bore axis. You're holding the gun pretty high. There's a little bit of a beaver tail carved into the frame here, and it doesn't protrude or stick out much, but it does give you obviously your handhold, and it puts you up pretty close to the bore, which is the closer you can be, the closer this part of your hand can be to the actual bore, the better it is for recoil management. So. And overall comfort, I find, in shooting, and that's pretty close. But it's very comfortable. The trigger it's got a nice sized trigger guard. Basically you get a full size trigger guard and trigger. In the compact package pistol. The sights are, and this one has the night sights. And when I bought it, that was really the one thing I insisted on. In fact, I made the people at the store go back and get me a different one after they tried to package me up one that did not have the night sights. I really wanted the night sights. This one has the night sights. They are True Dot, which is a Meprolite product, and they are fantastic. They are absolutely fantastic. Amazing sights. These things glow incredibly well in low light and no light conditions. And it's also just a really nice 3-dot sight picture. So if you do find yourself in the market for a Kahr, I highly recommend that you look at and consider the night sights. It is a bit of an upgrade depending on the dealer. I actually got this at the same cost as it would have been for the model without the night sights, so that's kind of a no-brainer, but I wanted them anyway and would have paid extra for them to get them. But I highly recommend the night sights. Again, they are True Dot. That's a Meprolite product, and they are extremely good, and that is factory installed. From just shooting feedback and my perception, things I like or don't like, I find that for a tiny little gun that is so light, the PM9 really does give you very good recoil management. So far, this thing feeds everything, and I have fed it quite a lot of different types of rounds. Obviously, factory hardball, your typical 115 grain full metal jacket. It's had a lot of that go through it, and it also feeds regularly. Jacketed hollow point, and lead round nose, even lead semi-wad cutter. It's had a lot of different types of ammo go through it, and I have yet to have any failure to feed, or any ejection problems or extraction problems. Accuracy is good. I have not you know, I haven't put it in a machine vise. I've done a little bit of rest firing, but not really, not trying to hold it dead still, not trying to always have the same aim point. I actually did some of that earlier today, and I'll attach some of that video of shooting it. But I was paying attention to a lot of other things, and I wasn't really trying to hold the exact same aim point on the target or any of that. So you know, I really haven't done a lot in the way of bench testing the accuracy of the gun. Every time I shoot this gun, I'm basically just shooting it freestyle, just for feel, and how am I hitting the target, you know, in a freestyle way. So resting it on a bench, you know, just hand holding it over on a bag today was probably the closest I've ever come to that. But accuracy is good. I'm going to say it's as good as I am. You know, it's going to be as accurate as I am as a shooter. Certainly inside of your, you know, 7 to 10 to 15 yards. If you get outside of that, then you may find that you might have to change your hold point. You might have to, you know, compensate, because it is a very short barrel. You know, you're dealing with you know, a 2 and a fraction barrel in terms of length. So you know, you're not going to expect to get match grade accuracy out of a gun like this. One of my favorite things about the Kahr PM9 is the trigger. People feel pretty strongly both ways about the trigger, but I like the trigger. It's different than almost any other gun I own, and for a lot of people that's a negative thing, because, you know, yeah, it does feel different, it does shoot different, but it's a double action only, and it is just incredibly smooth. This is very likely the smoothest trigger I own on a gun, and it's, you know, right out of the factory. I'll show you the reset on this trigger. All right, let's listen carefully. Right there. Now watch how much extra travel there is. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. Almost nothing. Very, very little. Very, very little take up. And the same thing with, listen for the brake. And that's it. I mean, there's no over travel. Very smooth, very crisp trigger. There is a sponginess to the trigger in the Kahr, but it's a very consistent feel. So, you know, it's somewhat spongy, but it feels spongy all the way back till it breaks. And then there's no over travel, and like I say, your take up is almost non-existent. I mean, if you just put any pressure on the trigger, let me go ahead and rack it again. Reset. Right there. And that's it. So your take up is that. That's it. There's your take up. It's almost nothing. And your brake. Okay, a couple of miscellaneous points about the PM9. One of the things that bugs me a little bit, and I'm going to unload my magazine. Alright, so I've got the empty 5-round magazine. This is the factory flush magazine. I say that loosely, and the reason is that's how it fits. So the flush magazine sticks out just a tiny bit. Now that wouldn't look so bad if it had a little rubber foot, you know, or hard plastic foot that slipped over that and was made to just sort of fill in that gap. But that's, you know, I mean, it doesn't bother me like, you know, like, ooh, I can't stand it. But it just, I don't know, just doesn't seem right. And it, you know, when I first got the gun, it made, I was always thinking I didn't have the magazine seated, you know, so I'm always beating on it trying to seat the magazine. But that's it. That's how it fits. And it even is really the same way with the extended magazine.